up, my fellow dorks? It is the Turtle Dork back again with the Disco Dork here for our recap, our review for the final season of Game of Thrones. This is season 8, episode 2. Also directed by David Nutter, who did the season premiere of the final season. Definitely go back and check out our breakdown of that episode. We are here with episode 2, where we pick up right where we left off with the stare down between Bran and Jaime Lannister. So we pick up pretty much from that moment with basically Jaime standing in front of the Queen, Queen Daenerys, soon to be Queen of the Seven Realms, possibly. We'll get to the end of the episode, and to kind of answer for a lot of his crimes and the things that he's done against the Targaryen family and things of that nature, and against the Stark family as well. So we kind of open up with that scene, which seems appropriate from where we left off with Jaime being in Winterfell, and of course, at the end of season 7, with him leaving King's Landing to go fight with the North, because he also mentions that, you know, he vowed to fight for the living and he plans on keeping that promise. He kind of should have known that what to expect, the type of welcome he was going to expect coming back to King's Landing. Yeah. So I don't know, what did you take away from that opening? I think it's something we kind of expected, but from what you saw in that opening scene with Jaime standing in front of Dany.
I mean, it wasn't anything surprising to me.
Yeah.
I was always under the assumption of a lot of the stuff between the characters, at the very least, that were in that room, in that scene, was going to have to be resolved prior to the battle, because I think, and we get several scenes in this episode with a lot of primary characters like sharing the same scene, and because I think there are going to be people in those scenes that aren't going to make it out of this battle. So I feel like going into this season, like I always assume that a lot of this. I'm about to sneeze right now. Just so you know,
just do it, man. Go, man.
I'm trying. If it won't come out, okay, I'm not going to think about it, because if I do, it won't come out. So I mean, I wasn't surprised. It was a great scene. It was very well directed. It went how I expected it to go. I knew that it was going to come up, and I knew that it was going to be addressed, and I knew that ultimately it was going to be forgiven, because Jaime, at the end of the day, is going to have to fight alongside him.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think that he was going to get put in jail. I didn't think that he was going to get punished or whatever. I knew that he's going to fight. And so in order to get to that, we have to get the formalities, so to speak, out of the way. So, again, nothing surprising, but I do like just a great scene, specifically because it gave Brienne a really good moment to stand up and vouch for Jaime.
Yeah.
That scene pays off tremendously. Like their entire relationship pays off
series,
later on in this particular episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, that moment when she gets up and she speaks up for Jaime. Because Dany is close to letting this motherfucker have it.
Really, yeah.
And if it wasn't for Brienne, I think that would have went a totally different direction. But
and I think that really was kind of the point of the scene, or at least what I took away from the scene was the scene was really about furthering that relationship that has been established between Jaime and Brienne, and for Brienne to step up in that moment because of everything that Jaime has done for her. Again, calling back to, I believe, season 3 when he lost his hand for sticking up for her. Yeah. She mentions that in that moment, and what she says to Lady Stark, to Sansa, about the reason that she is alive is because Jaime kept the promise to Catelyn Stark and sent Brienne to go retrieve her to bring her back to Winterfell. And of course, Sansa owes her life to Brienne, so she says, "Look, if you vouch for this man, then he can stand by us and fight with us."
Yeah.
So I like how it just kind of furthers and deepens not just Brienne's character, but the relationship that she ultimately has with Jaime that we'll see moving forward in this particular episode.
Yeah.
Again, like we talked about last episode, reunions. There's a lot of different reunions that that we get to further explore a little bit more in this episode.
Like all the reunions that the main ones that were supposed to happen pretty much happened. Everything's been tied up except for like the only other big one I can think of as of right now is like the Hound in the Mountain.
Oh, okay. But
I mean, outside of that, like all the principal characters, at the very least, like everything's
has been
taken care of. So now,
and we kind of further that a little bit more in this episode with some of the ones, but yeah,
right. Well, that's what I mean in this episode. Like right now, like it's pretty much done. Like I said, except for like the Hound and
the Mountain.
In the Mountain, I mean, everything else is pretty much like tied up. All those ends are pretty much tied up by the end of this episode.
Pretty much. I'm trying to remember the sequence of events in this episode, but we can kind of just, dart around in some of the things we want to talk about. But I think the next thing that we saw was the scene between Jamie and Bran at the tree.
Yeah.
So we kind of saw that coming as well, as far as Jamie forgiving Bran for what he did by pushing him out.
No, you mean Bran forgiving Jamie.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. Or apologizing, my bad. Apologizing to Bran.
Yeah.
But ultimately, and it goes back to, I know you mentioned it as a joke, but, it's like when Jamie forgives him, Bran will probably be like, look, it's all good, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be the three-eyed raven. Well, it kind of plays out that way.
It really does. And that's another thing, like, with this episode, which I'm hoping, like, this continues, because that's the thing I was most excited about this season, is just to see if all the things that I was theorizing, like, are right, are correct.
Okay.
And so far, like, a bunch of stuff is playing out. But yeah, in so many words, this scene does play out like that, because, I mean, you got to think about it. Like he said, like, Bran's not even Bran anymore, and he even admits it. And I was saying that before, like, when I was saying, like, oh, he's probably not gonna trip off of Jamie, because Bran maybe would have, but he's not Bran anymore. He's the Three-Eyed Raven. He's something different, and he says that to Jamie in this particular moment, because at the end of the day, like, he could hold that grudge, but like what we were saying, like in season 1, like all this squabbling, like none of this shit really matters, because like there's this looming threat that doesn't give a shit about any of y'all, doesn't give a shit about any of the infighting, any of the backstabbing, any of the incestuous relationships, any of the throne shit. Like, the Night King doesn't care about any of that. Like, none of it matters, and it's coming. Like, at the end of this episode, it is on their doorstep, and Bran, or the Three-Eyed Raven, having foreseen a bunch of this shit, understands that I could be mad at you right now, but that is not going to stop this army that's coming. You know what I'm saying? And so he's given up that a long time ago, like on his journey to becoming a Three-Eyed Raven. And so, and luckily for Jamie, the one thing of note is, so he says, like, if I'd have told them, because Jamie was like, why didn't you tell them? Because if I'd have told them, like, you wouldn't, we need you alive to fight next to us. And Jamie says, well, what about after? And Bran, the Three-Eyed Raven, ominously states, like, what makes you think there's going to be an after?
Yeah.
I was like, God damn, like, that shit was some cold shit to say.
And, like, the one person who knows what's ultimately going to happen is Bran. So it's just like, all right, so what are you saying? Like, what do you see? Bran knows everything. So it's just like, okay, like, tell me what's going to end up happening.
Yeah. Well, Jamie don't know. He know that. We know. We want to know.
Oh, yeah, because he doesn't know what the Three-Eyed Raven is.
And he doesn't know the journey, like, that Bran is going on, or ex-Bran, or whatever you want. I'm going to keep calling him Bran.
Well, yeah, that's the only way we know him. But one interesting note, too, I like what he says to Jamie, because Jamie says, I'm not the person that I was before. It's like, well, if you never would have pushed me out that window, then you still would have been the man that you were. So, these are life lessons that are all coming around to make these people change. But this is a Jamie-centric episode, and it's really just a lot that focuses on him, or at least,
and it should be, because his place in the story, he is a huge part. I mean, because what you said, and this is what we talked about, like, off air or whatever before, is that so much stuff would be different and not have taken place if Jamie had not pushed Bran out the window.
True.
Right? Bran would not have gone on the journey to become the Three-Eyed Raven. it's my theory. It's not proven yet. I'm looking to see if it's proven in this season. But if the theory of Bran being the Night King is correct, if Jaime hadn't pushed Bran out the window, Bran wouldn't have gone on the journey to become the Three-Eyed Raven.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have necessarily had been nurtured as far as his ability to warg.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't have warged back into the body of the first man, which is one of the theories of Bran being being the Night King. He wouldn't have warged into his body, got stuck there, turned into the Night King, and then have everything that happened because of the Night King and all that. Like, none of this shit would have happened.
Would have ever happened, yeah.
So Jaime is a huge, huge part, if this theory is correct, in the narrative, right? So it makes sense that before his huge battle that's about to happen, that the importance of his place in it be showcased.
Yeah.
Not even just with Bran, but
all the other characters.
All the other characters, like his relationship as far as being the Kingslayer and how that relates to Dany, and Dany's place at Carney
and everything with Brienne.
Everything with Brienne and his journey. So, like, if he's going to come there and to fight alongside, there's a bunch of shit that has to get squared away
with him,
with Jaime, and get cleaned up before this battle happens.
So yeah, and that's the reason I said that is to go to that scene with Brienne. Well, first we get something between him and Tyrion with them catching up, and then they're at the top of the castle, and he sees Brienne down below, and so then he goes down there to say that he's not the fighter that he used to be. And he would be honored to fight alongside or fight for Brienne, and which I thought was a really kind of pivotal, not necessarily a pivotal scene, but especially character-wise for him. I think it kind of humbles him to a degree. Him understanding that he is not the fighter and the respect that he has for Brienne as well in that moment. And we get to see our man Pod. It looks like
a long way, man.
He come a long way.
Boy, P. Diddy.
Which was nice to see. It was nice to see Pod training other people, getting them ready for the Battle of Winterfell.
And that's so crazy, like just that particular type of storytelling shorthand.
Yeah.
Like it says so much without any type of montage or flashback or any like expositional dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Just see Podrick training someone else from this lowly squire that kept getting passed around to a guy who can get on a horse to a guy who had to be taught how to hold a sword correctly by Brienne, and now when we get to see him in this episode in season 8, he's training other people, and he looks the part. Doesn't look awkward. Like you buy that he is he's battle ready now. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't know. Like I really appreciated that particular type. Like I said, story, like that particular shorthand.
It's great. It's great. And we got some other stuff when we get to that room with all those different characters kind of just congregating, the night before. We'll get to a lot because a lot happens there. But before we get there, there's a moment between Sansa and Dany that I want to talk about a little bit, because we've noticed that they've established this tension between the two of them in the first episode. And that carries over into this episode. And so let me just get your thoughts on that as far as like Dany trying to reconcile or make amends with Sansa. And it seems like they do kind of come to some type of agreement, so to speak.
Well,
but
this particular scene does something that I don't know that the show used to do it a lot. I used to talk about it a lot on our recap videos, how a scene would start and it would be going one way with a character, and then it turns, right? Tonally or whatever. Or like when you think someone is, and has the lead in the conversation or has the upper hand and something changes, or whether it be just tonally or whatever. And this scene gets back to that, and I really appreciate that. Like, like the good old days. Like, so it, like you said, it seems like Dany and Sansa are about to come to a mutual understanding and respect, and say, hey, look, why are we fighting each other? I kind of feel like we got off on the wrong foot. We may have more in common than you would like to believe, and then Sansa, she says, she apologizes to Dany and say, I should have shown you respect from the jump as soon as you got here. I apologize for not doing that. Like, and I'm thinking like, oh man, like this is that moment where instead of having women be against each other, that there's a unification.
They start to force together,
right? Because that can be. That not could be, but that is like not even outside of the context of the show, but in like in real life, like any type of unity is stronger than division, right? Especially like with women, right? And so, like man, that's going to be a powerful thing. But Sansa brings up a good point. Like so, again, looking ahead, kind of like every in this episode, this is the second time someone has thought to consider ahead, and then that future. Or that idea of a future be turned and so like what Jamie saying to Bran, like so what happens afterwards? And Bran, like what makes you think it's going to be afterwards? And then in this particular moment, Sansa's saying, okay, so what happens after this battle? Like when we take Winterfell, we defend it, and you go on, we defeat Jamie.
Yeah,
and
become the queen.
And you become the queen, and she's like, when Dany says, "Well, I rule the throne, I reclaim the throne," and Sansa goes, "Yeah, but
what about Winterfell?
What happens to the North?
The North,
like, we took the North back, and we vowed never to bend the knee to anyone.
Yeah,
and then that's when that sister moment, hey girl, yes, let's do it, girl power, woo. That's when Dany pulled her hand back and was like, hold up.
Right, might have to rethink this.
Right, and so I don't know, like that shift in the dynamics between that relationship, which just took a shift, like looked like it was shifting for the better.
Yeah. Then
it just went right back to it being tenuous at best, and so I don't know, like I find that interesting because again, like outside of the, if they were to be kumbaya and buddy in that moment, they walk out of that room outside of that castle, like maybe a mile or two out is this big threat, right?
Yeah.
And they have to contend with that, and in contending with that doesn't just mean fighting or defeating. It means contending with losses of people that they care about.
Exactly.
Potential losing the ability to even vie for the throne, like so much stuff that just. That they have to, that comes with just dealing with that threat of the Night King.
Exactly.
But then to add complexity to that, just even more drama or stress is the contention between the two, right?
Yeah,
and so, and at this point, Dany doesn't even know the truth about Jon yet.
No, not until the end of this episode.
That.
Yeah, not until the end of this episode.
Right, and but even finding out, it's still she's got that.
Yeah, and you could tell. I don't know, man. Like, there's certain things about Dany that I'm not feeling so far, but I think is going to play out later in the season. But let's talk a little bit about some other reunions and relationships. I want to go. I don't know if this was before what we just talked about, but let's talk a little about Theon. The reunion when Theon comes back to Winterfell. That moment almost got me because there's a lot of people that that I've seen, whether online, that don't like the character of Theon because of the whole Reek thing and just think that, because of all the betrayals, a lot of people that I've seen, I like Theon. I like his arc and I like the trajectory of his character. To see him come full circle and to be able to come back to Winterfell and to be embraced by the Starks through Sansa in that moment. And wanting to fight for them. That to me, what we talked about as far as like our theories and conjectures about what would happen to Theon for this season, this feels like his redemptive moment. And it was nice for me to see that in this episode. What were your thoughts in that, just seeing Theon and how Sansa, especially knowing that he was the one that saved her from Ramsay back in, I think, at the end of season 5, just having that embrace and feeling that he's accepted again.
Well, I think it's that moment is so powerful. Only partly because he saved Sansa from Theon. Yeah. From Ramsay. I think that moment is so powerful because of all the shit that those people online saying that they don't like Theon because of the whole Reek thing. Like, if he had not gone through that, if he hadn't been the asshole, if he hadn't have been the betrayer, the backstabber, all those things that he was, all those things that he'd done, and then go through that whole Reek phase, and then come out the other side of that to have learned his lesson
Yeah.
and wanted to atone for that,
Yeah.
and then save Sansa, then this moment would not ring as true. It wouldn't have been as profound and emotionally important as it is, because me personally, like I'm all for like forgiveness and redemption.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
Exactly.
Me, I'm not a perfect person. I've done shit that I ain't proud of, and I'm so grateful that I've been given opportunities to be forgiven and to redeem myself and to prove that I'm no longer that person. So to see somebody else go through that and then come out the other side of it a better person, because truth be told, like for what he did, like just going through the Reek phase, like I feel like he paid his dues. You know what I'm saying? Like he did his time, right? But like it was the outside of just Reek, like how he's treating his own family and like his uncle and all that other shit. So he's really been going through it, and then for him to have to deal with and live with, because he could have got killed. People could have said, "Oh, he needs to pay and kill him or whatever." But I think living with what he had done and seeing Sansa and being back at Winterfell and seeing looking at the faces of the people he betrayed, having to face that is a worse punishment than death, because you have to constantly live with the guilt and live with the fact that you have affected these people. So anyway, for him to go through all of that and be standing back at Winterfell, like he says, I took this castle, now I want to defend it. Like for him to come full circle and be there, and then for Sansa to forgive him and be glad to see him, for her to embrace him in that moment. Yeah. Yes, he saved her, but also looking at what he did to their family, like what he's responsible for. Like that's not no lightweight shit. You know what I'm saying? Like it's some heavy shit. But to see her be able to move past that, forgive him, and then not only just forgive him, like all right, you cool, don't do that shit again. Like, but to embrace him in that way. That's all he wanted. Like he just wanted to be accepted, because he was displaced. He was a person that didn't feel wanted by the Ironborn,
his own family,
in the Iron Islands. And then because of the decisions that he made, the bad choices that he made with the Starks, he fucked shit up there. So he was displaced. He felt like he didn't have a home.
Nope.
And then later on realizing that, well, shit, like Ned Stark was my father. Like he raised me. Like this family was and is my family. I need them. And so for them to be able to take him back in like that, and in this moment, I think them taking him back, it was encapsulated in her embracing him. So that just means he's going to die next episode.
Don't say that.
I'm just saying he got what he wanted. Like his character arc has come full circle.
Yeah,
like what else is there for that character?
You're right.
Which we theorized, but and it would make sense, because that's how he would want to go.
He would want to go, and I think you're right, and I think he's going to go in a heroic way by saving somebody, probably by saving Sansa.
No, he's volunteered to go stand out in the fucking open with Bran.
Bran, that's right. Well, actually, that's the next thing I want to get to. So when they're kind of having that council about their strategy as far as attacking or defending Winterfell against the White Walkers, that whole thing with Bran, because we've been talking about Bran and his connection to the Night King, and I do remember the one episode when the Night King does touch him and marks him, brands him. Yeah,
I see what you did there.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so it's starting to kind of play out a little bit of the connection that Bran has and what that could possibly mean as far as what they might have to do to defeat the Night King, if he is actually the Night King. So what did you take away from that moment, like when we started to kind of hear?
I told you, man, this season, I'm just trying to see if I'm right. I'm just checking off all my little theory boxes, man. And I'm telling you, he says, because in this particular scene, Bran says, the Night King's coming for me. Because they're wondering, all right, so Jon says, that it's theorized that, he doesn't say it, but in so many words, theorized that if we take the leader out, we take the Night King out, then all of his followers will fall. Yeah. Right? Everyone he's turned will fall.
So they have to try to go for him.
And so it's mentioned like, well, if that's the case, he's not going to be out in the open.
Nah.
If he's the main guy, he's going to be well hidden. And they were like, well, how do we draw him out? And Bran was like, well, he's going to come for me. He's coming for me. That's the whole point. He's coming to get me.
Yeah.
So Bran suggests, all right, well, basically you use me as bait. Put me out open. We draw him out. And then, bam, you get him. And that's when Theon says, we'll go out there with him. With the Ironborn, we'll go out there and guard him. So.
Yeah.
But, that whole connection with Bran saying he's coming after me, like, it just falls in line with that theory. Like, so I think because we haven't seen the moment, so the theory of Bran being the Night King, if you're watching the show, you love the show, you probably already know what that theory is. But for those who don't, it's theorized that Bran at some point wargs into the body of the first man, the guy who would eventually become the Night King when he's stabbed in the chest by the
Children of the Forest.
The Children of the Forest, right? So that guy gets stabbed in the chest, and then Bran wargs into him. And so earlier in the series, Bran has warged into an animal.
Yeah, and I think Summer, the direwolf.
Direwolf, and they pull him out, and Jojen tells him like, "Look, man, you can't keep warging into shit, because the more you do it, and the longer you stay, you risk getting stuck, and you will no longer be yourself." So there's been no payoff to that line of dialogue, right? There's been no payoff, and if you watch the show long enough, you know and you realize that every time something significant is uttered or something like that is uttered, there's a payoff to it in the show, in the series. Like they'll call back to it, right? So we haven't had a callback to that yet. We haven't had a payoff to that yet. So the theory is like some point, which would have to be within the next 3 episodes, 4 episodes. Bran is going to warg into the body of the guy, the first man, and because he's been doing it so long, as in the current timeline, this will probably be like the last time he does it. He'll get stuck in that body.
Stuck in that body.
The guy gets stuck, and then from that point on, we had the creation of the Night King, right?
Yeah.
So the Night King that we have now in our current timeline, the reason why he's coming straight for Bran is to prevent Bran from warging, right?
Okay. Well, no.
Oh, no. Bran says if.
Well, as far as within this episode, they're saying that he's coming for Bran because he's the three-eyed raven and he's trying to destroy the memories or the history.
The history, yeah, because Bran knows everything.
Because they're all seeing, past, present, and future.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you do that, then they destroy like.
They destroy it takes back man to being its primal self.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I feel like anyway. That's not so. The reason why he's coming is to do that. But I feel like with them knowing, when Bran knowing that he's coming, they're gonna say, okay, well, Bran's gonna say, well, I'm gonna warg into the guy who gets turned into the Night King before it happens to try to stop it from happening, but
you can't stop it, and then that's what.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's one theory. Of course, we'll find out. Maybe the next episode how it plays out.
Boy, shit, it would have to be.
Yeah, it would have to be if this is the battle. I mean, or if they lose and the Night King is still alive and continues to head south towards King's Landing.
You're right. They are going to lose. I do think they're going to lose.
Yeah. Because like you say, I think Dragonstone and the Iron Islands are going.
Yeah, I don't think it's not going to be the next episode then, because Winterfell's going to fall.
Yeah. That's yeah.
Winterfell's going to fall.
Yeah.
Because the Night King has to get to King's Landing. Because again, another callback is like. The vision. I talk about this all the time when when Danny was in the House of the Undying or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a vision that those sorcerer dudes showed Danny where she was in the throne room and it was all like snowed out and burnt and everything like
ash
that.
And when she saw
Drogo. Yeah. So that hasn't happened yet.
So let's go to something that you deem to see uncomfortable. Arya and Gendry. So after the season premiere last week, a lot of people have been speculating that they're trying to build this romance between Gendry and Arya. And the reason, because if you go back, this season has been calling back to previous seasons throughout. Just these 2 episodes. So if you remember, Robert and Ned talked about them joining their houses at some point, and Gendry being the bastard son of a Baratheon and Arya being a Stark, of course. This is one way of their houses joining together, kind of calling back to what Robert said to Ned about their houses, marrying, together to join their houses. So a lot of people thought, okay, this is a speculation that they're going to try to hook up. And we see that played out in this episode. Now, the actress, Macy Williams, just had a birthday, so she's legally 22 years old. But the character, Arya, who we know from the first season, 2011, I don't know how old she was in the first season, but she was the cute little girl, and
a baby.
A baby.
She was a toddler.
Say a toddler.
She was little. She's still a baby. That shit ain't feel right, man. That's all I'm saying.
I know. But outside of that, if we can, what do you think about that whole thing between Gendry and Arya, and also just him building the weapons and everything with her character, and of course there's another reunion between her and the Hound, which I thought was really. I actually like this one a little bit better than the one last week, because you see a little bit more about because she asked him, it's like, why are you here? And it's like, you never fought for anybody but yourself. And he remarks, I fought for you, which I love that moment, because it shows you that he did truly care for her. Yeah. But everything with Arya, whether it's the Hound or with Gendry, what were you?
That shit made me feel uncomfortable. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Man, that's like seeing, that's like watching somebody grow up. You knew them when they was little, and then you see their titties, when they get big. Like, I don't want to see that, man. Yeah. That's like, nah, I don't. Anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. Gendry's a cool dude. Like, I like Gendry.
Yeah.
But do I like Gendry and Arya together? I don't know. But is she happy? Okay, whatever. I
know. I feel, but they make it a point to make that a plot or a character point in this episode for her. Yeah. For her character. So I figure we just need to address it in some way, shape, or form, whether it, or even just addressing it in the way that it just made us feel.
It just made me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. But what about with the Hound, real quick? What about that? As far as
I to me, there was never any doubt if the Hound cared about her.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
But this scene just goes, to further cement that, and but it also goes to show also further just how far Arya has grown, right? Like, firstly, she's past she's past wanting to scratch his name off her list, and she's past being afraid of him. Like, just her interactions are totally different. He even remarks as such, like, when she first sees him, she sits down, she doesn't say anything, and he's just like, for fuck's sake, like, last time I see you, like, I couldn't get you to shut up. Now, like, you sit there and you don't say shit. Like, what the fuck?
I know.
So it just that, for me, the biggest takeaway is just how much she's grown, like how far she's come, whether it be how far she's come just herself, or how far she's come in regards to her relationship with the Hound. I'd be curious to see what happens next with them.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens with that as well. Well, for the sake of time, because this is probably running a little long, but there's a couple of big things that we need to talk about, especially the end scene. But first, let's go to, I don't know what you call the room, with the fireplace room, where we get a lot of our characters congregating together before, them enjoying their last moments before the big fight, because we know this could be their last night together, their last night alive. So we start off with Tyrion, your man, and Jaime, the brothers, kind of having a little moment reminiscing. And then we get other characters coming in. Of course, we get Tormund, who brings us a lot of comedy in this episode.
Yeah.
Sir Davos comes in, the Brienne and Podrick comes in. There's a great funny moment between, which I love seeing because since he was the former squire to Tyrion, I love seeing the moment between Tyrion and Podrick with the wine. with the wine.
Oh, he's gonna look out for your boy.
Yeah. But this was a great scene. It was intercut, because a great moment between Jaime and Brienne that we'll definitely get into. But having all these characters together, all these different moments, my man Tormund talking about the breast milk of, of the giant. He was laying it on thick. He was laying it on way too thick. I don't know if Brienne was digging that. I mean, I was like, bro,
we'll see.
Yeah, and just, and Tyrion even remarked as far as like, everybody sitting in this room have won battles. Sir Davos
lived through battles.
Sir Davos, going back to Blackwater season 2. Going back, and then he mentions Jaime and some of the battles that he's won when he was younger. Brienne of Tarth fighting the Hound. So just that scene overall, just what moments from that. Let's save the knighting moment because that was a huge scene for me personally between Jaime and Brienne. But before we get there, what did you take away just from all those different interactions in that fireplace, in that setting?
Tyrion, when he brings up those battles, he says, I think we're gonna live through this. And my takeaway from the scene is that a lot of those people in that room are definitely gonna die. It's just one of those scenes, like in any movie, like any war movie, when this is almost is close to like, when I get back home, you know what I'm gonna do? Motherfucker, sit in a box and 6 feet under because you're gonna die. I don't know, it felt like that. Sir Davos, I got a feeling he's gonna die. I even got a feeling Brienne is gonna die now. But my biggest takeaway is just how good this show is, like how good the writing of this show is,
Absolutely.
How confident this show is, how well paced this show is, the fact that this show knows that, we got an hour and 20-minute battle or episode coming up with an hour-long battle in it, and a lot of these characters are no longer going to be here, and we have to properly respect these characters and tie up any loose ends and make sure that they're given a proper send-off. This show has to juggle so many characters, and a lot of these characters that are in this particular episode are characters that may not have shared the same season or a bunch of scenes together, and so it's almost like an Avengers film where you gotta have a huge ensemble and divvy up the time accordingly, but also respectively, so that no one feels shortchanged, right? Because there's so many different storylines and threads, and one character may have like multiple different like plot lines. You know what I'm saying? So
exactly.
To be able to navigate those and tie those up, and a lot of these characters are meeting for the first time, but to make it feel, not clunky, to make it feel meaningful and to make it feel balanced, and also at the end of the day to make it feel like entertaining.
Absolutely.
There's no fighting going on. There's no double speak. There's no backstabbing. There's no ulterior motives. It's just a room full of good people.
Exactly.
It's just a room full of good people, and in this show, that's like few and far between.
And even Tyrion remarks, it's like, at one point we've all have fought against the Starks, and now we're here fighting with them. So I thought it was just a remarkable scene. So like I said, let's try to speed up a little bit. Let's talk about Brienne being knighted by Jaime. I didn't know this scene was going to hit me emotionally the way that it did while watching it. But we've seen Brienne throughout this series and what she has wanted, as far as being with Renly, and then the oath she took to Catelyn. And, and she remarks that, like a woman can't be a knight. And I like the moment even with Tormund, even though Tormund, is being, I like what he says, like, well, if I was a king, I would have already knighted you. And Jaime remarks, well, it's like, you don't need to have a king to be knighted. And even when she says, that's not something that I really want. I like how the camera cuts to Podrick and he has that look because he knows, being with her, he knows who she is and what she truly wants. And
Jaime knows too.
And Jaime knows too. And that's why he takes his sword, and to have that moment where he says he says the lines to her when he knights her, and the look on her face of elation, of respect, of appreciation, of accomplishment. It just and for it to be Jaime to be the one to do that.
Yeah.
It hit me in such a way because I was just thinking about Brienne throughout the whole series, and it was very heartfelt. It was a very heartfelt moment. I think this was the scene of the episode for me.
Yeah, and it was just so well done. Like outside of like what it meant, like the way it was shot, the build up to it.
Yeah.
But then also like the subtext, like everything that comes with those characters, their history, and just it really is like the culmination of their friendship. That's the greatest thing that Jaime could have ever done for Brienne. Yeah. That's the greatest gift that he could have ever given her.
Absolutely.
And he did it. And so I don't know, like.
Yeah.
That awesome. Again, like it just as soon as it was over, I was like, shit.
I know.
Because there's a thing like she could die next episode, and you wouldn't feel like, oh man, there's still so much left for that character. Like she accomplished what she wanted to accomplish, what she set out to do. So technically, she could die now. Like not in a horrible death, but I mean, when you accomplish something, you go, oh, I'm good, man. You can take me now. I can die now, happy.
And that's what it feels like, in that moment for her. So we'll find out. We'll find out a lot of stuff next week. That's going to be an interesting. Check out for those episodes, especially the reaction. Yeah.
Final thing is Dany found out.
Dany and Jon in the crypts. This is the last thing. That was coming. Yeah, this is the last thing we want to talk about because we wanted to see how Dany was going to react when she found out about Jon's true lineage and him being the rightful heir to the throne. So, he tells the story that he says that Bran told him and is confirmed by Sam. And of course, Dany, which makes sense because you look at her journey, why she would be in denial. It's like, look, so, this was confirmed by your brother and your best friend. It's like, I see why she's trying to kind of poke holes in that. But what do you think the implications of this, knowing that she's not the rightful heir now, moving forward?
She's obviously going to feel some type of way, but it's ultimately going to be revealed that it's for naught. Like, because Jon doesn't want it. Like,
he doesn't.
My theory is like Jon's going to say you can have the throne. He's going to make a self-sacrifice, and he's going to die, and Dany's going to be alive, and she's going to lay claim to the throne. Mm-hmm. So this, however she's taking it, like right now, it'll pass. Mm-hmm. And they'll move on. They'll deal with the impending threat, and then they'll work the shit out later on. But I think working the shit out later on is ultimately going to be her. Jon, his claim to the throne is not going to be a threat to her because at the end of the day, he's not going to be alive to claim the throne.
Okay, so you holding to that? I see you. I see you.
I'm just saying, like most of my stuff has just been panning out. So I just want to see. All right. And again, I'm basing all of this shit on everything the show's giving. The show's giving me every reason to believe these things. Like I can go back and point to multiple times, multiple episodes, multiple character choices that the show wrote. The narrative is there that supports my particular train of thought. So I'm not just
I know. I'm just teasing, and you could be right, and I think that is a possibility that could be how everything plays out. But
I don't know. Like there's some other shit too that could happen.
It's a lot. I mean, look. I mean, they can swerve at any moment and pull the rug up under us, pull the rug from under us, and we just don't know. We really don't know. But yeah, that's episode 2, and then of course, all this goes down right when the threat is right outside.
The episode closes out with Tyrion on the wall, and the camera pulls back, and we go across the fields at Winterfell, and you see the undead army has arrived, and they're
about a mile away.
Yeah, they can see Winterfell. So the next episode should open with horns going off, everyone getting into positions, and
shit's about to go down.
So that's crazy because this is coming out in Avengers Endgame.
I know. Next weekend is.
So there's gonna be a lot of hurt nerds and geeks, emotional, because some of our favorite superheroes are gonna be giving the ultimate sacrifice.
So when y'all go to work next Monday morning, just console your fellow coworkers.
Like, wait, why am I consoling you? Is this Avengers constellation?
I know,
or
right?
Game of Thrones. Okay, Game of Thrones constellation is over here.
Over here.
Endgame Thrones over here.
It was just, and everybody was a bit of both. We'll just set
y'all. Support group for them too.
So yeah, guys, that is episode 2. Unfortunately, we don't have the title as of yet. It seems like they don't release that until a little bit later. But the season 8, episode 2 is done. We are 4 episodes away until we find out how this all ends. So with that, I am the Turtle Dork. This is the Disco Dork. Check out other dorks at Mouth Dork, at Sidewalk Siren, at WB Das. And with that, we are out of here.